All right, boys, gals, non-binary pals, welcome back to the Age of Empires 4 action. It's time to check in. It's the EGC Finals preview. Main event begins very, very soon, so we need to make sure that all the boys are up to scratch as we're going to be checking in on Poppy Paw, facing off against Don Arty. On one of my favorite maps, actually arguably my favorite map. Cliffside is such a fun map. I think this is going to be the standout map of the entire expansion. I think like it's borderline better than Dry Arabia. Actually, I personally prefer it to Dry Arabia. Let's see if these players like it. It's going to be Byzantines versus Juji's Legacy. So Poppy Paw continuing to practice with these Byzantines. He's trying to solve it, right? He's trying to be the Enigma cracker right now of this Civ that most people just think is a complete discard and not worth the time. And he's going to be facing off against one of the Civs that is a complete ban and definitely worth the investment in banning. Juji's Legacy is a hot topic right now amongst the pro players. They are not happy with it. It is very RNG, and that RNG isn't it's either really good or it's really bad, is that it's really good or it's really, 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 really good due to Meditation Gardens and the follow-up plays in the Song Dynasty. Looking at the generation, this could be one of those really, 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 really good games. I'm pretty sure there's a Meditation Garden placement here that would get you a bunch of trees, double gold, and stone, which means you'd be getting 60 gold a minute, 30 stone, and then probably like 20 wood. Alternatively, he could drop the Meditation Garden here, get 48 food, get the 30 stone, probably could also get the gold as well. In fact, yeah, if you drop it literally right here, you will probably get the range. You'd have to drop it here. You'd be able to get all the berries, the stone, the gold, and maybe clip a few trees. It's kind of nuts that, like, even in a bad situation, a Meditation Garden can still yield you, like, 90 resources plus. So, we'll have to see what the answer is going to be from the Byzantines. So far, Red has been prioritizing the Grand Winery. We just watched a game between these two where it was Byzantines versus Mongols. Check that out if you haven't. And he did go for a Grand Winery up against an aggressive Civ. This is a more greedy Civ, so my inkling is that he's going to lean towards being greedy himself, but I would love to see a Hippodrome play. I think Hippodrome is a better solution here up against the Jujis, just because the way they're likely to play. And surprise, surprise, it's the Meditation... Oh, wow, he chose... I'm feeling like Indiana, like the Indiana Jones moment right now. He chose poorly. I think you could have been one more across. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it looks like it should still clip the gold. I think it has to just touch the box. It doesn't have to be halfway through, right? So maybe he could have got like an extra row of berries here, but I'm sure Don was checking because remember, you have the indicator on screen now when you're looking around for the location. This is going to be an all right Meditation Garden, but not crazy. He's probably going to get like, what, 30 food here, 30 stone, 30 gold, and then probably about 10 trees. So that's still going to be like, what, 100 resources? And I consider this to be a bad placement. This is not a reasonable landmark. Meanwhile, on the other side, it is going to be the Grand Winery. And interesting. Poppy Paw opened with an olive grove. I've noticed a few players experimenting with this. I think something's kind of been inspired in people, considering the English were already innovating in this direction, right? Like the English we're starting to see a lot of those double farm openings. And it's kind of a similar logic here for the Byzantines. And it stretches your limited sheep further. And you have an added benefit, right? For the English, the added benefit is so cheap to build farms. For the Byzantines, the added benefit is that you're going to start generating extra olive oil, right? And the Grand Winery is going to make that more delicious for you as you continue on. The Meditation Garden coming out, and immediately into the Jiangnan. So Donna is going for that 1-2 tap, isn't going to hang around, isn't going to consider this fast castle build. It's going to be all about the greed, and we can already see that by the fact he's onto the stone. So we are going to get in a multi-TC approach. The question mark is going to be, is it 2 or 3? I think this TC down here is way too juicy to pass up, so wouldn't be surprised if he goes a bit too greedy. Then again, if he's worried that Byzantines are playing aggro, he might just stay at home. But this is where scouting becomes a critical ingredient. When he sees Grand Winery, he sees no sort of opening into stables. He should then feel very comfortable that the Byzantines are not going to aggro this. And yes, to clarify for people, the Byzantines get olive oil from olive groves, berries, and fish. They actually get the most from the olive groves, if I remember correctly. Oh, sorry, the berries, if I remember correctly. We should be able to double check that. It's not going to tell me. I think you need a mill to tell for sure. But I'm pretty sure it's 30% from the berries, 20% from the olive groves, Yep, there you go. And then 10% from fish. So, tech up complete. What we got on the other side? The Jianglan's coming through. I wonder if he wants to like drop a stable to be a bit aggressive. I doubt it, considering he just wants to be efficient into his second TC. Wondering if he's going to stop here, though. Only 3 people on the stone. Yeah, I was going to say, like, he didn't realize the farm tick was coming in there. For a second, it looked like he was going to go for 3 TC, but it's just going to be the 2 TC. Wouldn't even be surprised if he just drops it here in his base to remain condensed. He has got a ridiculous number of sheep. Don ends up getting like 12 sheep compared to on the other side, what, like 5, 6, maybe 7? And a second TC coming out from Puppy Paw. So very reminiscent of the last game we watched with him, right? Where he dropped this TC next to the gold and just tried to play that, I want to say, more contained approach to the game. It's almost like he's a bit worried that Zhuzhis might try to punish too much width. I think something that kind of adds in this paranoid concern is exactly what you're seeing built here. It's because you need to link in these systems. The Byzantines are essentially punished for going for limited, for proxy TCs, right? Because if you put your TCs too far apart, it means you have to have these very long aqueducts, which A, take a lot more stone and time to build, but B, are more susceptible to being burnt down. Meanwhile, on the other side, we are now going to see Donai dropping that archery range. So as anticipated, he's going to be looking to strike first. I would expect nothing else out of Don. If you have not watched Donai before, this guy knows nothing but blood. He bathes in blood. He moisturizes with blood. I think he maybe even drinks blood. It's hard to say. He never shows it on camera. But it's fair to say that this is one of the most aggressive players in the top 200. Interesting that he went for the condensed 2 TC. It does mean that he's kind of he's on the clock in terms of safety with his economy, but it does mean that he can initially focus all of his attention on aggression and not really have to defend much. Yeah, especially when I see this, he won't have to. I mean, it's going to be the Lombos from Puppy Paw. Kind of feels like he's just trying the same build over and over again, right? But like that's kind of like what it takes in the practice. I'm still not convinced that just blindly believing in Lombo Limitane on the opening is the way. This was the way that most people began their Byzantine journey, and then they tried to evolve away from it. I quite like, in this matchup at least, the idea of like having had the Hippodrome flexibility, or if you want to keep that greed of the Grand Winery, at least considering going into Keshiks. Yeah, you're seeing a kind of disgusting number of Chuganu already. Where to begin? Know how we were talking about Meditation Garden kind of being broken? In fairness, yes, it is one of the most broken features. He's getting 100 resources right now from this one. The Jiangnan Tower is pretty insane for a feudal-age landmark as well, for what it does. Considering that you get it cheaper as well, and what it allows you to then do, it's allowing him to drop buildings and immediately get a rebate. He pays 150 resources, he gets 80 resources back. If it was a stable, it would be 120 resources back. Now, you're going to say, but Pigeon, he's still spending a lot of money. Sure. But the upside is that you immediately double the initial production rate because you Q1 in the Jiangnan Tower and they pump out 3 times faster. So you're seeing him swell up at a ridiculous pace at this stage in the game. One that David Kim is not ready for. And to add to the frustration of this build, it's the fact that you're kind of encouraged to build extra archery ranges than you can afford. The benefit of that is something that I've talked about in the past called surging. It's where you boost your production rate past your economy's ability to push constantly, right? So the whole idea is that if you had an economy that is able to afford 6 stables, but you built 8, the logic there is that you have timing windows where you have more units coming out in bursts. And the whole point of those bursts is it allows you to just pump numbers ahead of your opponent, even when you're the one aggressing. And we're already seeing that to an insane number right now. This is getting absurd. I mean, it's 25 Chuganu. This is... Yeah, he's already getting the blacksmith, so Steel Dara is going to be on the way. And remember what we keep saying about those Byzantines? They're always slow to get the blacksmiths operational. And the problem of this is, although the timing is similar, if Donai just moves a tax official across, he'll be able to supervise and get Steel Dara much quicker. I am actually hoping this is a ram play, though. With this many Chuganu, just one ram into some kind of dented aggression is super effective here. Don, that was a bit greedy. Behind this, not many farms up either, so kind of problematic if you're trying to scale Lombos as a critical part of your defense. You haven't really set up the olive groves yet to justify that long term. It's going to be moving out to the berries in the meantime. The Chuge new numbers. Dude, this is just getting ridiculous. This is a more absurd version of Chinese. Can we just agree that? Like, can we really just agree that? Late game is still debatable right now, which one is better. But the early mid game of this Civ is just, it does feel like an outright better Chinese. Almost any build you want to do with the Chinese, I feel like this build does, this Civ does better. Fast castle build, faster. Multi-TC build and feudal, more optimal. Granary transition, 100% easier for the Juji. And what's the real trade-off? You can't build archers? Okay, deal. Like, before Imperial Age, I feel like the only downside they have compared to the standard Chinese is that the standard Chinese can get the clock tower, so they get more beefy siege. But that's like, I think that's... I salute and I accept that throwaway, because here's the thing, like, I feel like quite often, Chinese Castle Age play revolves around those Nesta Bees. Whereas Juji's, because of these swelling timings, like, it's not uncommon to see them go into Lancers. It's not uncommon to see them just mass Chuganu at a better pace. Even Palsguard. And do I need to mention the Shaolin Monk build for everyone? Do we need a reminder again of what that build can do? No, God, no, please. Looks like things have slowed down for the time being, though. Bit surprised that Don isn't trying to go more aggressively. This is surprising considering that he had a blacksmith for a few minutes now, and he still hasn't got siege engineering. He did go for Steeled Arrow into Undermesh first, so he's really spooked about what David Kim's doing. Puppy Boy is getting a sizable range force together here, by the way. Archer plus Lombo and the Horseman. I can't help but feel Don's in a weird predicament where you can't now scale into racks because, like, your spears will be too slow. And although Palsguard would kick ass here, the problem is that you don't have the food income to sustain Palsguard production, right? We aren't at granary point yet. Apparently we are. Move in position, though. The moment he tries to move, Red comes in with the counter-attack, because Poppy Paw is able to just force him back home, and that's going to be a raid into the economy that might find some targets. So we'll pick off the Chuganu for the time being. And this is quite unlike Don. Don typically tries to go more pedal to the metal, but I feel like he's just reacting instead of being proactive, which is surprising. I mean, this guy legit is the type of person that was infamous for tower rushing people. This is the guy that would send everything to the enemy base. Right now, though, just feels like he's playing a bit too reserved and is essentially being stretched for it. I mean, this is the risk you run when you're up against Horsemen. If this is the way that Dom wants to take this, waiting for the critical mass, he'd probably benefit more from like some small walls around the backside. So like wall here to the gold, wall here to the stone, wall here between the wood lines, maybe even then wall up here towards the cliff. And all of a sudden you've created this weird funnel point that stops this wraparound from the cavalry. But right now, David Kim is buying crucial time. He even just went in for the extra damage on his horsemen. So he now gets the +2 versus workers, as well as being paid gold whenever he snipes villages. Pretty cool read there. Oh, hello. That's going to be... I believe that does actually pay. I haven't checked that, but yeah, it's a worker. So he just got 20 gold for killing that Imperial official, while costing his opponent 150 resources. That's a pretty nuts difference. I think Don has had enough. He's finally realized that he's just being pulled around like a Benny Hill's theme tune. So instead, he's going to be going in for his own offensive here. It's going to be the triple ram and a push. And looks like he's going to be walling in some of his economy. So smart lad here understands that if he keeps dancing to the tune of David Kim, it's going to be a loss. He needs to go now. Interesting as well. Check I love this, actually. The trapezoid's coming out. It's the scouts, right? The scout is there with the horsemen, so he's going to torch through these buildings pretty quickly. It's not really going to matter. He's going for the blacksmiths. The dive in the main base is more crucial here. Chuganu start to snipe down. Rams are dealing with the infrastructure. Look at the archer range first. The Chuganu just stand their ground still. Don't care about the horsemen, right? They're just getting absolutely shredded here. Cav is gone. It's now ranged versus ranged. David Kim is a little bit too close to the sun. He's going to get burned. Villagers also being sacrificed here as the dive continues. The TC incredibly tanky. A few Chuganu left around to deal with the villagers, and the horsemen finally turn up back home. But Don, still with a scary number of Chuganu, will continue to just hemorrhage the villagers of the Byzantines. Difference is building here. 12 villager advantage now for Donai as he turns around in the army once more. He's lost a lot of Chuginu, but he's taken a lot in return. Rams continue to hit into that town center, and it looks like it's finally time to back away. Now, Don needs to be careful. He's waited around here a little bit too long, so if he doesn't clean up the horsemen, there will be an immediate counterattack. So we start to shift away from that town center, right? The Rams are still knocking on the door, which is costing a lot of wood. Remember, once you're repairing with over 3 villages, you pay an insane amount of wood here. So instead, he starts to target down those Rams before they make this a real problem. TC's down to half HP. But the Chuginu count, like, where did these come from? Oh. Now, I don't know if I'm huffing the hopium here, but I'm a bit worried at the rate at which the Chuginu are rebuilding. Because it's not just the Chuginu numbers. Don is saving a lot of resources now. Well, TC, the primary TC is going to survive, and I think this is one kind of key point of concern of what just happened there from Donai. He never went off for the secondary. If he'd attacked that secondary TC, it would have been down. But it seemed like Don was going for a GG push. Then he paused thinking about Castle Age, and now he's just returning to the same old flow. It's not the worst of ideas, by the way. Like, we shouldn't criticize this play from Dom, because the reality is that, you know, he is quite eco-heavy at this stage. He knows he's got an eco lead. He killed so many of the Byzantine villages. But the reality is he lost a lot of army as well. And now, Puppy Paw is looking to go for that tech up. Golden Horn Tower is on the way. And considering that Don doesn't have any Rams, it's very difficult for him to stop this timing now. Still, he's going to try. I mean, Don would be remiss if he didn't at this stage. Gets plenty of Chuginu back together, but the 12 horsemen looking to pick off reinforcements might be a big problem here. He's going to drag away. Okay, that's really critical. What happened there? Like, he's just dragged them away from building the Rams. This is really well played by Puppy Paw. Like, he's buying so much vital time here. And the issue is, by the time that Donai realizes what's happened, it's going to be in the back of his own base. Oh, man. I dread to think, like, what you do now if you're Don. You're going to have to go so fast, but, I mean, Chuginu aren't exactly known for their speed, folks. At least not when it comes to movement. Horsemen just continue to waste time here. Ram still not being built. Golden Horn Tower about to complete. And that's when this game gets mighty scary for Zhuji. Let's see if he's going to switch over. Is it going to be the Dialecticus to get a quick unlock? It really needs to be. If he gets the contract upgrade fast, it's a big deal. Puppy Paw. Buddy, don't do this. Okay, this is taking a while. I see this very often. It's such a hard detail to remember, but you need to check your systems. You need to toggle them, because right now, like, Dialecticus would have ensured that he's basically complete already on the contract. The reason that's important is he could have been, like, pumping a new wave of longbows probably in about 5 or 6 seconds. So that's essentially 20 seconds wasted, right? Definitely problematic. Actually, where is his food? I feel like his numbers are kind of lacking. Interesting that he plays deer instead of berries here, considering that lombos are a critical element defense, but seems like you want the Kaz. So Cataphracts are on the way. And these are going to be seriously scary, because if they just get a trample charge through, oh my god, is everything done? It's the shift A! Everyone's on the front line! Don says do or die, and I choose death and do. Mangonel comes out. Chuginu need to address that right now. Villagers just trying to shift around to the backside. Donai with the all-in. It's everything on the line. Akritoy activated. The Byzantines join the party. And they're willing to fight. TC being dented by the Rams down to 2k HP. The villagers still tanking, absorbing so much damage. The textiles play by Donai is on point here. He knows he can't play this long, so he has to end it now. Town center is down. 2 landmarks to go. This is crazy. This is Donai. Villagers straight into the Mangonel. It's gone. David Kim lacking resource bank right now to reboom. 19 versus 68 military. Eco is all but gone for Donai. This is it. One way or the other. And with the ram count looking like it is, 8 rams in total. I think he might have actually done it. Chuginu making it look so futile. The Cataphract barely able to stand up against it. Winery is already down. Don, what an insane turnaround. The Cataphract count just isn't there. There's no answer to the Rams anymore. Donai. He turns a loss into a victory here. The moment he saw that tech up, there was zero hesitation. Donati proving that pink is the most powerful of colors here. David Kim looking a bit flaccid as the golden horn goes down. Donati. I don't know if we just nerf Zhu Ji or nerf this man. Maybe nerf both. Why is Don like the only person I see do that so frequently? I want more of that. Read and weep. Don't wait around. Take the win while you can.